W.W.A.S.P podcast. Thank you guys so much for your continued support. Really appreciate it. Thank you to everybody that's interacted with the podcast in any way that you interact with the video helps the algorithm and gets these messages out there farther to the general public, hopefully, eventually. And I think it's finally starting to happen, but let's continue to keep on pushing it out there. Thank you to everybody that's donated to my podcast financially. It's never expected. It's always super appreciated. So thank you to all my Patreon members. Thank you to the people that have joined the channel. I appreciate you more than you know. I want to do a moment of silence for the person still struggling with intrusive thoughts or addiction. So on the count of three, I'm going to do a moment of silence. 1, 2, 3.
Wait, I lost the...
Okay, thank you for that. And without further ado, I want to go ahead and introduce myself, or my guest for the day. Go ahead and introduce yourself and where you went and what years, and give us like a brief description of where you went.
Hi, I am Barbara Ann. I am a Rebekah girl, 1976 through 1979. I was also the ward of the state of Illinois. I was in 33 foster homes, 2 group homes, 1 state home, a residential school, Geneva, Illinois, to the mental hospital, all the way to juvenile detention for lockdown, to the IFB, lockdown IFB home of Lester Roloff in Corpus Christi, Texas, which we became the landmark Supreme Court case. We were the template of the T.T.I, and we started in 1968, right along with the Synanon cult. They were kind of side by side. One was religious and one was not. I call it the state side and the religious side. You know, the state side, they had a little bit more regulations and stuff than the religious side. We had nothing. We were unlicensed, unregulated, and they did what they wanted. They believed in corporal punishment. Torture was ruled by the Supreme Court under George W. Bush. My abuser did make it to the White House. In 2001, he became the president of TACTA, Texas Associated Children Care Act, which, you know, is pretty crazy when you think about that your abuser made it all the way to the White House under these laws. And I just want a lot of people to know, since all these documentaries came out, especially Teen Torture Inc., if you have not watched that, please go watch that, because I'm at the very end when we're going into Missouri to make the laws. I helped pass HB 556 and HB 560. We fought very hard for these laws, and that very many of them have not been they've been not even put in place. They have not been followed up. They're not in place. It's like we think we're finally getting somewhere and we're not. So I just thought with my growth, his growth, many other survivors I've seen growing through the years and coming some, that it's our time to fight and get a little bit louder than what we're doing. I mean, our podcasts and our stories are getting out there, but I think it's time that we really make an effort and get, you know, stand really stronger than what we're standing. And we got to stand together. And I see a lot of in-house fighting, and that really gets to me. That bothers me to my heart, because I watched this over and over for the last 40 years. We started Beckley Girls in 1982. We was hoping to get at least 100 survivors. As you know, we got thousands of us now, and we don't need the in-house fighting because this person don't agree with that person or that person don't agree with. We all are never going to agree. We're all never going to get along, but we got one thing in common, and that's to help the children. And we've got to stand strong together to get this done.
No, I completely agree. I don't like the infighting either. I understand there was a court case that went on. I've read all of that stuff. But the infighting is detrimental to it's a roadblock to our cause, like what we're trying to accomplish. And when we're infighting, we're thinking about ourselves and not about the children. So it's really it's not about us.
Yeah, it's like a cancer, and it grows and it'll take us down. And, you know, I've watched so much of us be taken down and ripped apart through the years, you know, different types of groups and stuff that probably before you guys were born, you know, and it hurts me to see it happening again. And I just want us all to pull together. I ain't saying we all got to agree, and I ain't saying we all got to get along, but I do say if we want to get this accomplished, we got to stand together. You know?
No, definitely. I completely agree. So what was the bill that you got that you helped get passed. What was that? What did that bill entail?
We were just asking for simple oversight. You know, a lot of people say we was attacking their religion. We don't want to. I could care less about your religion. I can care less about any of that. You know, I don't think it should be forced on children, and I don't think children should be corporal punishment and all over this religion. But you know, it's simple oversight. You know, you got to be registered when you're dropped off in another state. Where you can't take a child now from Illinois and go drop them off in Texas like me, then come back 3-4 years later and say, "Oh, welcome back." That don't work, because you know by that time I can speak for myself, and I know others feel this way too. You already got them bitter feelings towards your family, your parents. And I know a lot of people feel that their families got ripped away from them. You know, I myself, I was in 800 fosters that was sold to Texas for $3 million in 1976. You
Wow.
know, and that's in Governor George Hill's book. I mean, it's written a whole chapter on it, you know, and I think, you know, they didn't have nowhere to put us no more, so they sold us to a different state. And I mean, if that ain't child
Trafficking.
yeah, what is? Yes, and if people don't know, or if you came in pregnant, or if you got pregnant there, whatever the situation may have been, they sold our babies there, anywhere from $200 to $350 to up to $500. Well, let me take that back. It wasn't sold; they were love gifts. They got a gift given to Lester Roloff for this baby. Babies were sold in the Piggly Wiggly parking lot. There's lawsuits on this. There's articles on this. StolenNBC.com by Tyler Kincaid. My friend Nancy just found her baby a couple years back, or her baby, I should rephrase it, her baby found her. You know, our first baby we found looked 26 years for her mother, you know, and we did reunite her with her mother. She was a missionary from Tasmania. Nancy baby was a missionary, sold to missionaries in Africa. I mean, I found a boy baby, his parents were missionaries in Mexico. So, you know, these babies were taken out of the country, you know, and so the mothers had a hard time and still have a hard time finding these babies. You know, very few have been found. And, you know, if you're from the ILB and you are adopted, do a 23andMe, you know, because your mom's looking for you. You were never given away. You were never abandoned. You were taken and stolen and sold. And you know, that's another part of child trafficking. And I think a lot of people don't realize how deep the troubled teen industry is with child trafficking. It's a very deep, and it goes hand in hand together.
No, definitely. I'm doing a deep dive into satanic ritual abuse and child trafficking and a bunch of all of that, and the wormhole just goes on and on and on and on and on, and it's crazy. Do we know like where most of these children went, or we just don't have any idea where they were sold to?
Only thing that we can really say, that I can say for facts, I don't want to put misinformation out, but for facts, they were Jack Hyles University, Bob Jones University, Tennessee Temple University. They are the three universities that helped Lester Roloff place these babies. 1973, the state told us, I got news articles, the state told Lester Roloff to quit selling babies. In 1973, it did not shut down till 1986. So can you imagine how many girls came through there and how many babies were taken through the years? And so far, what we have found, all been missionaries out of the country. Very few have been in the United States.
Do we have any reports? Do we have any reports of any of the children being like killed, just like on the spot or anything like that?
Are we talking about the babies or the girls or children?
Well, either.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. The Walker County Jane Doe and the Bossier County Jane Doe, we feel are ours. They have identified them after 30 some years now, and you know they say they're not, but
of course
we know difference. Yeah, I mean the Bossier Jane Doe, there's actually pictures of her in New Bethany, and if you her outfit, I don't know if you remember in the 70s of the orange tube socks with the stripes around the top. She had a pair, and they described them, and we got pictures of Rebekah girls with the same socks. You know, the names written in the shoes, but they will not listen to us. We're rolled out. You know, they investigated us. They rolled us out, and that's all there is to it. The Walker County Jane Doe, she was found with nylons around her neck at a truck stop. You know, who rode nylons in the heat of Texas? You know,
Yeah.
very few girls. Rebecca girls did. But we are working with a 3-letter agency, you know, right now, still today. And, you know, we're giving them all the information we have, and hopefully one day we'll pull it together. Many babies were disposed of. Any brown skinned babies really were disposed of.
Yeah.
You know, and they didn't get placed. They were hard to place. And you can hear Lester Roloff's own words on YouTube. It's Phil Donahue Show, if you remember that. Phil Donahue Show with Lester Roloff. And it's them talking. And his interview, and it was an early interview because Granny and Papa were on that as our first parents. And he said we placed over 100 babies. Now, this is in the early days, you know, and still talks about how we get licks and punishments as, you know, when we move to next door, which is 18 and over. And he's like, you don't, you know, spank grown children. He's like, oh, yes, we do. I mean, so it's, you know, you got his own words and people still don't want to even believe it, even coming out of his own mouth. But Lester Roloff was a human child trafficker.
Do you think he was being, do we know, like, if these children were taken right when they were born? Or do we know if there was a waiting period? They were just taken right when they were born?
Yes, right when they were born. Shortly after, I mean, when they were born, usually the other set of parents is right there. I mean, the mother never got to see their children, so they were lied to. A lot of them were lied to, say it was a boy and it was a girl, or, you know, their birthdays would be a day or two off, or there's always something that would always throw them off. But yes, they were taken. Now in Stolen NBC, where Tyler Kincaid investigated, the girls were taken to another state to even have their babies. Nancy was taken to Mississippi to Tennessee, you know, so her baby was shipped on up to Africa. So
probably because that's where they could get rid of the children the fastest, or like they had clients over there or something like that. I would presume.
Well, Mississippi, it was legal to sell children till 2009.
What?
Yes, I swear to God, they had to pass a law in 2009 to stop selling children in Mississippi. You know,
it's a loophole. They're using the loophole there.
Right. And that goes all the way back to David Gibbs Jr., Christian Law Association. David Gibbs Jr., Lester Roloff is his first client, was his first client. And I got that, you know, article too, but was his first client, an 8-year court battle. And I don't care what anybody says, how evil this man is. This man was smart. He's one of the smartest men I've ever came across in my life, because he knows all these loopholes in all the states and got off all these predators and all these convictions that we thought we had walk away because of him. You know, he was just that type of a person, I guess. Very intelligent when it came to these state laws.
Yeah, just probably hyper obsessed with what's legal where and what's not legal where, and just, you know, it's just, I feel like a lot of these people that are wealthy and just stuff like that, they're so paranoid about being caught for what they're doing that they just meticulously like need to know all the information about what's legal where, what's illegal there, stuff like that. And just, it's almost to an obsessive point. You know what I mean? They know so much stuff, and it's like, why not, you know, learn how to, like, I don't know, live out the land, or like, I don't know, help like child sex trafficking rings and like expose them or something like that. But no, let's just like hyper obsess about where I can get away with the most illegal stuff. Like,
right,
you know?
Right.
So,
and they make the $1 billion industry off of children. And these $1 billion industries, they branch off into more $1 billion industries. I mean, it just don't stop with the, you know, the T.T.I. I mean, we got big pharmas involved. Look at the medications, some of these medications, and some of these children. I mean, I myself was on medications at a very early age, very strong medications. You know, we get put on these medications, and that's chemical restraint. It ain't to help the children. It's control our movements. You know, we can't fight back. We can't, you know, say nothing because we're out, you know, getting our drooling on ourselves. I mean, and stuff like that. Now you got the transporters. You know, we called that gooning back in the day. Now they're legal. You got transporter companies that can come in and take your child. You can legally kidnap your child in the middle of the night. Go take them states away and drop them off. You know, and not have no consequences behind it as a parent. You know, if you're not in the T.T.I. and you did that to a child, if you took a child and go drop them off somewhere and not come back for years, you're going to get charged.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, you're for abandonment, risk of harm, something or another. There will be legal charges somewhere or another to that, except in the troubled teen industry. It's like, oh no, just take this child and we'll come back, you know, and if we get them at 18, don't worry, mommy and daddy still love you. Well, guess what? We don't love you now. You know,
Yeah.
we can't forgive our parents. I couldn't forgive my parents. Hard as I tried to love my mother, I could not love my mother. She was my mother. And don't think I didn't want to. My heart wanted to, but I couldn't because I remember everything that happened. And I remember, you know, it ain't that I guess in a way I did blame her. You know, you didn't check on me. You didn't come and check on me. You didn't, nothing. You didn't ask if I was okay. The caseworker of 3.5 years never asked if I was okay. Where were you people when I was in there getting shattered behind them doors? No, nobody was there.
Yeah, and it's like even when they're being told like, oh, everything's fine, like I would still, like, if I had a kid, I would still go double, like, trust but verify, you know what I mean? Like, I'm gonna take your word for it, right? But I'm gonna still come and verify that that's the truth, you know what I mean? Because
Right.
not saying that, you know, oh, these parents are bad for doing all this stuff, obviously, but you know, it doesn't make them bad for not knowing that or not realizing they should check up on their child, even though that was the first thing that would come into my mind is, if I'm being told yes, she's fine, I'm in the back of my mind, just the way my mind works, I'm going to be like, okay, cool, but I'm still going to hold you to that and hold you accountable and really check and see if that's what you're doing, especially if you have my child in your custody. You know what I mean?
You know, a lot of people think Lester Roloff, the court case started off on church and state over the licensing. But really, in 1973, it was a parent that came to visit his daughter, was seeing another child being abused and went to the police station. That's what brought these abuse charges and started this whole fight. It wasn't a child that ran away and got out and said, hey, you know, this happened to me. It was an adult that witnessed these children being hurt and they still did nothing. You know, and that's sad because even the adults, you know, the adults had to know. I feel my mom knew. I feel other parents knew what was really going on in these places. Maybe not to the extreme that they were going, but you know, if your child was acting up in the world at your home, but all of a sudden it's perfect in one of these places, it don't work like that. Your child don't change overnight, you know.
Yeah.
And most of these places don't even have counselors or therapists or, you know, medical attention or nothing like that. We had none of that. By the time I got to Rebekah, I needed a therapist. I've been through the ringer. You know, I've been, you know, already, you know, hurt so much physically and sexually as a child that I needed a therapist. I needed help, but I got none of that, you know, because they didn't believe in that.
Yeah. And I also feel like religion is like a smoke screen for a lot of people, especially if they're super religious. Like, I'm not saying all religions are like this, but there is a group of people in every religion that believes their religion so heavily that they believe that if people are religious, they would never do something bad to my child because it's not in their religion. You know what I mean? But I think that they use that as a smokescreen. These places that take in kids, you know, these religious schools, they say, oh, that can never be happening here because we're a religious association. You know what I mean? When behind closed doors, they're doing all the funky shit, you know? So.
Right. And like Agape, a lot of people when I first got on, met people from Agape, they had a dorm named Lester Roloff. They didn't even know who Lester Roloff was.
Of course.
You know? And yeah, you know, the whole beginning of this, and they got a whole dorm named after him. And a lot of people don't even know where all this even started. And I think that people need to learn the history, that Lester Roloff was the template for these religious exemption homes. He wanted in the Supreme Court for a religious exemption, you know, and when he got that changed the whole game plan because now we're not under the state no more. We're under the church. You know, these homes are
That'll even cover up. The church will even cover up for people. You know, we've seen this with the Catholic Church and stuff like that. So,
yes, you know, the Catholic, they're very high up there. You know, you mentioned the satanic. I did a research one time, like which religion had the most, you know, abuse cases, and this actually the satanic is the lowest. That's shocking, ain't it? I
Yeah.
couldn't believe it myself. And I'm like, holy crap, because you're taught all this stuff. So when I started, and the highest one really is the Boy Scouts. The Boy
Yeah.
Scouts beat every religion. But the priests are way up there. Then you go down, you got your pastors and youth pastors. People say, oh, pastors don't hurt children. Every day there's a arrest made of these pastors hurting children. They do. And when is the parents going to be held accountable? These children are getting hurt in these places, just like the troubled teen industry. The abuse is happening there. So if a parent puts in places a child there, when is a parent going to be held accountable for some of the stuff they've done? A child can't make their decisions. Our decisions are made for us. And, and it messes with us mentally, physically, and everything else on somebody else's belief and somebody else's decision of our life. And I feel it's time to step up, and these parents should be held responsible too.
Yeah. No, I think it just takes, for the main thing, it takes away the person's autonomy, like they don't get to make decisions for themselves anymore, stuff like that. Everything is decided for us. Lilith, get out. Lilith, come on out. You're going to be on my TV. my cat's messing around.
And I just, it's just time it needs to end. I mean, and now with everything going the way it is in the world, it's because it's just becoming like a common factor. Oh, send your kid to the wilderness program. What in the world can a wilderness program teach a child? Your child's behind on education because they did not go to school while they're in the wilderness program. Your child's behind on everything in life because they're stuck up on there trying to survive on a mountain, not to freeze to death or overheat or whatever you want to call it. That didn't teach your child nothing. What, survival of the fitness? We all survive of the fitness. A child ain't put out there in the world to survive on the fitness. So now when they come out, they're behind. They're behind in school. They're behind on their education. They're behind on everything that was supposed to be help them. And, even their mental state is really messed up now. A lot of children come out and their whole mental state going in was one way, and they're going to come out completely the other way. If you don't think your child had mental problems going in, wait till your child comes out. Then you're going to see what mental problems are.
Good luck getting them even to go back to school,
Right.
after that, because it's not going to be easy or even possible for some people. It's not even going to be possible for some people to associate or just be in a social setting. I know for me, I don't really leave my house. Like I've kind of been that way ever since I got out of the program. Like I used to be super outgoing, but the program broke that part of me. Like it broke that part of me, and like it took that away from me. And now I'm just the complete opposite,
Yeah, I stay in my house. I have social anxiety very, very bad. It takes a lot for me to get out. And it took me a long time to even get to speak out. I could tell my story writing it or any other way, but to, speak. And we had to keep our head down. So, when we talked, our heads were down. We had no eye contact. It took me probably in the mid-30s to where I can finally look at somebody, look them in the eye. And now when I talk, I want to look at you in the eye because I want you to know what I'm saying is true. There ain't no more being that shy little girl, that girl that's timid and hurt. No, I know what you did, and I know who hurt me, and I'm going to tell the world who hurt me and what you did.
Yeah, and there's a lot of emotion that gets exchanged between eye contact too. There's an exchange of Shakti that happens when you look somebody in the eye, and there's an exchange of just energy, and you can see in their eye, like I can even tell if somebody's evil usually from the look in their eyes. Be darker, like there's a darkness to their eyes if they're into some weird shit,
Yeah, like Teen Torture Inc., the Bethel Boys that are just speaking out. Now, the Bethel Boys, Herman Fountain was from our farm. He was one that Lester Roloff trained. And I used to tell people, there's two people, I say this, and that's Aunt Dot and Herman Fountain. And they had no soul in their eyes. Their eyes were black. I'm telling you, they had no soul in their eyes. And even as a child, you knew that. You felt that evilness when they walked by. Or if you walked by them, you could just feel that evilness behind them. And a lot of people, you know, got to go on their intuitions with that too. I mean, if we felt it as children, adults, and you know, adults can feel it.
Yeah, no, completely. So you were in Teen Torture Inc. What did you think about the program?
I really liked the program. I was only in a glimpse of the Teen Torture Inc. at the very end, and I'm in a glimpse of the program too. On part 3, it says "Follow the money," and they're at the White House with the lights.
Yeah,
You'll see me. I'm in there. That little picture there. You know, I went to DC with them. You know, on silence then, and stuff. I mean, I wanted to hear for myself, because everybody's saying, no, all these laws we're making and passing, the federal laws, it's going to help a religious exemption homes. Well, I want to hear that for myself. You know, I want to know the facts and the proof. They're not. These laws will not help. I mean, we got to fight the church and state law. And that's a whole battle I already fought once, an 8-year battle, actually, you know, as a child. And it's a whole different thing as state. Reason I fight so hard for the state is because that's the foster care system. A lot of foster care kids are put in these T.T.Is as placements or adoption kids, you know, and they're left there for years, just like me. You know, I got a 6-year punishment because I reached to all the right people. I went to the police. I went to my pastor. I went to my school teacher. I went to the people that I was taught that was going to help me. And instead, I got a 6-year sentence, which turned into a life sentence, you know, because my life will never be normal because of it. I'm 60 plus years old. I'm still fighting today to help the kids that I know are in there with no voice, that can't be held, because that's what we are. We have no voice. When we get put in there, our letters are monitored, our phone calls are monitored. You know, everything we do is monitored. And the program showed a good part of that, you know, how the things are monitored, and we didn't get to reach out to our parents and even reach for help. It ain't like we can pick up a phone and call 911, I'm getting abused. That don't happen. You're a bad kid, and you're taken, if you do run, you're taken right back to these programs, drop back off, and you're going to get it 10 times worse, you know?
Yeah. And my heart really, you know, it hurts a lot, you know, it hurts a lot for all the children, but especially the children that are in foster care. They never had anybody to vouch for them in the first place. And then they get put in these places, and, you know, some kids, you know, they have parents. If the parents wisen up, they'll come pull them or whatever. People in foster care don't have none of that. Like, they don't have anybody to vouch for them. They don't have anybody to check on them. None of that. So
and
it's
who are
just,
going to tell? I mean, you know, back then, you know, I consider myself a throwaway kid, because that's what I was. I was a throwaway kid. Nobody wanted me. The institutions didn't want me. The state didn't want me. Nobody wanted me. So, you know, I was a throwaway kid. Who were we going to go tell? You know, nobody would believe us. You know, child trafficking, everybody says, oh, child trafficking just started. Child trafficking started decades ago. Decades ago. Francis Sheldon, you know, Father Buzz Ranch. And I got a thing I made of going down the rabbit hole. I listed a bunch of names, you know, research these names, learn more the beginning of this, you know, because people want to start with Epstein. Epstein ain't nothing, you know. Epstein was just another one that took over when the other one got caught. Craig Spence, the ABC reporter, same thing as Epstein, the same, almost identical thing. You know, there's so many of them, and nothing's changed. And, you know, it's never going to stop until they go after the buyers. There's always going to be, there's buyers, there's going to be a product, and they're going to make product. And the United States of America is the #1 provider for this since 1974. This is 2024, you know, and we're still rated the #1 provider. Why ain't we stopping these buyers? Why ain't we convicting these buyers? Why ain't we blasting these buyers' names? You know, none of that's getting done because of who they are, you know, and it's a shame, you know, and they go after the vulnerable children, the foster care children, the children that got nobody.
Yep. No, they picked him on purpose. They picked him for a reason. It's interesting you said Francis Sheldon, because when I researched into that, I found it extremely interesting how he would fly these boys out to this island, right, where they had kind of sounds familiar to, like, you know, flying a kid out of a state, getting them far away from their kid or their family, you know, far away from anybody that could vouch for them, or if in the foster care system they never had anybody to vouch for them, get them as far away they can from them, and then have them on this island, and then at that point you can do whatever you want to them, you know, like, and that's what ended up happening. And this was, you know, tied into the whole Boy Scouts and stuff like that. And he was saying, you know, send your kids here for a retreat, and they'll be able to, you know, learn how to be a boy, or like, it was like the whole Boy Scouts type thing. But behind that facade, he was abusing the kids and videotaping it and that whole thing. So
right, Troop 137 actually is called Troop 137. And then there comes Father's Bud's Ranch that came off Francis Sheldon. You know, Father Bud opened up the Wayward Home for Boys, but yet the Wayward, they got the wards of the state. They applied for the wards of the state, and they were sent to this man, even though he was convicted on charges of that. You know, and they were still giving him the wards of the state. You know, if you knew he was a convicted, and Illinois last year just made a law, they cannot place a foster child with a convicted child trafficker now. Are you kidding me?
Made it? They just made that law?
Last year.
That's insane.
Yeah, really? Because you've been giving us decades. You've been giving us foster kids, you know, to these type of people for decades, and nobody cared. And people get mad because I'd say that too. No one's ever cared. Because where are you, America? Where are you when we're making laws, when we're fighting? All these people want to yell, save the children, but when we go fight, when we're out here fighting, like you're podcasting, where are the outsiders? How many outsiders really come here? How many outsiders have contacted you and say, I want to say my opinion on how I feel? I bet none. To very few.
It's very few. I think I've had maybe one or two, maybe the entire, and I've done over 145 episodes.
Yeah.
So,
so words are weak to me. I don't want to hear that no more.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear your weak words, you know, because I've heard them all my life, and you ain't never showed up, and you ain't never helped. It's us. It's the kids that got hurt. It's the survivors, and we're the ones still fighting, you know, still today, you know, all these bull crap, you know, organizations they got going on that say they help, they don't. The money, where's the money going? It ain't going to none of us. It ain't going to none of these places that's holding children, you know. And like me, I'm being a throwaway kid since I was in an institution. See, they got two checks for me. They get the state check. Now they get a federal check because I'm in an institution. So I'm worth double money, you know?
Yeah.
And that's all it bases on is the money for these children.
Yeah. It really just, it comes down to corporate greed and just like people just, greed and power. Literally is what it kind of, like when you take the layers off all this, people want power, and people that have power are obsessed with having more power, and it's just it's never ending.
Yeah, and foster care is Title E, and the Title E is unlimited funds for foster care, you know. And most of these foster care kids, you know, they don't live good lives.
No,
very few live a good life. I was in 33 foster homes, maybe 8. Maybe I'm gonna say 8. We're halfway decent. You know, I was always one of the older kids, so I had to take care of the younger kids. I had to cook, I had to clean. I mean, that ain't much, you know, it pays your room and board or whatever you want to say, you know, however you want to look at it. No, they got a check for me. You know, where was my clothes voucher? I didn't get new shoes or nothing like that. You know, I didn't get nothing like that through the foster care system. I was out stealing shoes, stealing clothes, just to, you know, to be able to go to school. If I even got to go to school, I hardly ever got to go to school in foster care, you know, and that's one thing I feel got ripped away too. You know, our education, you know, a lot of our educations were taken from us in these programs and foster care, many places. You know, I have no school records. And right now I'm fighting for my identity, you know, because I got my biological name. I just went in court, and I'm fighting for my own identity, that I'm a real person. I'm 60-some years old, and I don't exist because there's no records.
Yeah, that's insane. And then we have, when people are like, "Oh no, this is just like United States problem." No, this is a global problem. Like with this trafficking, like Mark Dutroux, like he's in the UK or Belgium or wherever it was. Let that whole thing. I mean, it's happening all over the world, and I'm certain I'm going to like look into other places, like other countries and whatnot, I'm certain I'll find these trafficking rings and stuff like that going on there. And there will be that 1 or 2 people that are at the top of it that were doing it big time back in the day, or maybe still doing it. And, you know, it's a global problem. This isn't just a United States problem. And that's what I keep on trying to tell people.
Problem. Yes, global. It's a worldwide problem. You know, I just lost my count after 5 years on TikTok, but I was friends with a lot of people from Australia. Same thing, you know, that were in these homes, these programs. You know, it just isn't United States. Same thing that happened to us is happening over there. You know, and it's just really, there's books, they're writing books and telling their story too. And if you put our stories side by side, they're almost identical. You know,
saying the same thing except in a different place.
Yes.
You know, you gotta trust the survivors. Like, I'll always trust the survivors unless there's like, even if there's physical evidence that they're lying, I'll still probably trust the survivor, because like, and there's also just, if you look at a survivor's eyes and just look at their body language and stuff like that when they're telling you a story, you can usually distinguish. Well, especially for me, because I'm an empath, maybe that's why I can do it a lot easier. But for me, like when I look at somebody in the eyes and watch their body language, like I can tell if they're lying, like 90% of the time. You know what I mean? I can tell if they're being genuine, and I can be like, no, that's real. That's real, because there was an exchange of energy that happened through the screen. You know what I mean?
And another thing is male survivors. Believe male survivors.
Yeah.
I mean,
it happens to them
because of you. I'm saying it because I know for decades they would not speak out, and they're still hard to get male survivors to speak out. You know, and I know that they're taught different lessons. You know, they're taught to be ashamed. They're taught that it was so, you know, horrible and this and that. No, you're still a man. You know, you were a child. You can't not. What happened to you was not your fault. You were a child, and if we cannot fix this problem if they do not start speaking up too. Believe a male survivor if they speak up. You know, and that's something I believe in my heart fully.
Yeah, I mean, just look at the Francis Sheldon thing. He just liked boys. He was all into all boys, and that whole thing was boys. So I mean, you know, and I can't. I wonder how many, you know, the boys that went through stuff like that still haven't spoken out. You know what I mean? Because they fear it demasculating them in some way in the public image or something like that. Whatever it may be, you know, they won't speak out because they feel like it will make them look like lesser of a person. When in reality, it's like, no, that actually makes you a bigger, stronger man. For admitting that and saying this happened to me and holding these people accountable in that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's just that all the way around, you know. And so many the boys, people think this sexual, you know, trafficking is mainly girls. I don't agree with that. I agree that I believe it's boys, and the reason I say that because I've been around a lot of it, you know, as a child in foster care and stuff, and I know many of them would choose little boys over little girls, you know, when they come to pick us out. You know, we picked out, you know, or whatever, however you want to call it. I remember many, even on the farm at roll-offs, there were high officials that came and they would go to the boys, you know, before the girls. And I think the boys had it 10 times rougher than the girls ever had. And
go ahead, finish your thought.
You know, and I believe that with my whole heart. I mean, I know boys got bones broken sometimes, you know, and in a hospital and different things that happened that were really severe, where us girls, we had to be dressed up, makeup, because we were always on the news footage and stuff, you know, the news cameras are always there. So that kind of saved us in a way. Not that I liked it or not, you know, I don't like turning on YouTube and seeing me as a child still today. You know, sometimes that'll throw me back into a dark place I got to pull myself out of, you know, because I would take me back to that moment, you know, and stuff. But I think in a way they saved us because we was always in the eye of the cameras, where the boys were kind of pushed off to the back.
Yeah, and also I feel like that's like, even though it's hard to watch, like you have physical evidence, this is me, see me in the video, that's literally me. Like you have something to point to and be like, that was me. I wasn't like making it up in my head. Like that for sure is me. Like there's physical, like actual representation of you being there. You know what I mean? So I feel like that could be validating for some people too, even though it's hurtful. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, I've made 5 films. I'm in 3 of them. So, you know, it's you know, it's all bad to me, you know. And at first I was so ashamed. You know, I'm like, my kids used to say, Mom, nobody knows that's you. Oh, I know it's me, you know. And my aunt said, oh, I know it's you. I can pick you out, you know. Well, yeah, you guys can pick me out, you know. But now, like, I'll put it out there. I'll circle see this. This is me as a child. I was there. I was at the Save the Nation rally in 1977 with 10,000 people. You know, that was me that was standing behind Roloff. You know, these are really things that happen. These big rallies they took us to and exploited us for millions. I mean, we wasn't exploited for little money. We were exploited for millions and millions of dollars and made this man rich, you know, flying around the country and stuff, getting more children to bring in, you know. But yet people would say, but you smiled and you sang and you told your testimony. Yes, you're right. We did. You know why? You didn't know the consequences if we didn't.
Well, also, you were under mind control. You were under mind control as well.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So, and a lot of, you know, like a lot of people, the reason mind control works so well, and I say this all the time, is because you don't usually know you're under mind control.
At the time, right.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, you think you're doing the right thing and you think you're doing a good thing, but then you don't know you're under mind control and that you're doing somebody else's bidding by doing that. You know what I mean? By saying, right, I'm okay here in the program, I'm okay, or whatever the testimony was, you're just, you know, doing what they want you to do, but against your will, but you don't know it's against your will. So it's crazy. It gets kind of in the weeds there for a lot of people, but the important part is, like, mind control happens. And you can see it in the survivor community now, like the infighting. What were we trained to do in these places? To tear each other down.
Yep.
What do we do when we get out of these places? We compare each other to each other and, like, fight. And there's infighting and stuff like that, because that's how we were trained with the mind control. That's how the mind control, like, formed us. So
just like junior staff, how many, you know, other survivors want to be in charge of other things? Yep. You know, I tell people, I'm grown. I'm 60-some years old. I am grown. You are not going to tell me who to like, who not to like, what to do and what not to do. I can't go with that. You know, yeah. I you know, they don't even realize that they're still in the program in their mind. Yep. You know, that's the way I feel, in my opinion. You know, you got to outgrow that no matter what.
Yeah, you've got to just, like, you know, like, eventually, hopefully everybody will wake up. You know, I know a lot of people don't wake up ever, and, you know, it ends up being a detriment to them. A lot of people end up taking their lives because of stuff like this, because they feel like, you know, they never really understood what actually happened to them, and they were sold this lie for so long, and it becomes so hard for a lot of people. And then there's some people that realize what that happened to them finally, and then it all comes crashing down, and it's too much for them to bear, and they end up taking their life or whatever it is. So there's
our suicide rate is so high. You know, our suicide rate in the survivor community, and always has been, is so very high. And that's sad that, you know, some people, they just can't pull themselves from the dark, you know. And even if you think you have, then all of a sudden 20, 30 years from now, when you get back in that dark place and you can't pull yourself out, there's another suicide. You think that person's doing so good and, you know, healing and growth, and boom, it could be anything. That's like triggers. A lot of people don't understand triggers. It's our responsibility to heal, you know, cope with our own triggers. And I understand that. I have a hard time with it myself. You know, something triggers me, I can become a whole basket case just like that, on a smell or a comment or a word, something that I didn't even mean. I could be somewhere not even thinking about this stuff. And that one thing can trigger me all the way back to being that little girl again, that little scared little girl, hurt, you know. And it's hard to get your triggers under control. And that will take you back to them dark places. And next thing you know, we're remembering somebody that we loved very much. And
yeah, and I think it's an even more of a level of difficulty to do that when you don't even realize what your triggers are. You know what I mean? And why you're feeling like this. You know what I mean? It's like you see something or hear something or smell something, and it triggers you and you react a certain way, but you don't know why that triggers you, because maybe those memories from back then have been so suppressed that you don't even realize you were there. there's a lot of people, not a lot, but there's some people I've interviewed where they haven't even fully comprehended what actually happened to them back then. And they're like, 30, 40 years old. You know what I mean? So when something does trigger them, they get really even more upset because they don't know why this is triggering them. This shouldn't be triggering me, like this shouldn't be bothering me, but it is. You know what I mean?
You
So I
don't know
think
what
that's
you
really
got
hard
hidden,
too.
and your brain is a very, very intelligent thing. You don't know what's buried in your brain, in your mind, to bring it out. That and sometimes it don't. And nice things that it brings out.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I feel that in the last 4 or 5 years, I feel I've done a lot of growth. And even at my age. And I've been working on me for a very long time, probably longer than you've been alive. But, you just can't give up. And so many people think, oh, I'm healed and I'm done. You're never done, and you're never going to be completely healed. I hate to say that. That's like a bearer of bad news in a way, but you always got to keep pushing forward and not give up, because something sets you back. Many things will set you back through your lifetime. You just got to keep putting your head up and just keep going forward with it.
Yeah.
And remember your goal. A lot of people forget their goal, and our goal is to help the kids that are still there.
Yeah. That have nobody to talk to them, have nobody to vouch for them, have no autonomy, none of that. Those are the children, all the children, obviously, but those are the children that specifically, like, I try and point out to people, like, just think about the children that don't have anybody to vouch for them, don't have anybody to talk for them, any of that, and have no autonomy. Think about that child, and like that, those are the, all the children we need to fight for, but especially those ones that have
And I
nobody.
don't think
You know
there's
what I
so
mean?
many children that are being held. No, we're out here fighting. You know what I mean? They're in there thinking they're all alone and nobody cares.
Yeah.
And we're out here, we're fighting, and we're screaming from the mountaintops. We do care, and we are here. And hang on, kids, we're coming. We're trying. It's just nobody wants to pay attention to us. The ones that it really happened to. And I tell people that if you didn't live this, I got 27 books written about me. 27 books written about me.
Wow.
Rebekah girls. Not one Rebekah girl's ever been interviewed in any of these books. And how are these people writing these books going to tell our story, but yet have not even listened to our story, listen to our side, I should say, And people take these books and these podcasts with these people legit, and I'm like, hold it, That's how I lost my account, because I got called misinformation. What about my side? What about my story? What about the girls that were held there, that were in there, that lived it? Our story don't matter? You're going to take a pastor that flew in maybe 20 minutes 1 year over us? And I just want the kids to know we are fighting for you.
No, definitely. And you're not alone. I think it would be cool to, like, develop something for the children when they get out of these places, like when they're fresh out of these places, like kind of like a reintegration, something where we could, like, help them reintegrate and, like, get connected with resources that can help them, like, understand their trauma, understand what they went through, with somebody like somebody like that has been through the similar thing that they've been through, that like maybe set up a resource network of survivors that have become therapists and now specialize in exposing the TTI and helping children and people that have got out of these places process their thoughts, and just kind of point them in the directions where they should they could go to help in their healing journey. I don't know, something like that I think would be good, because especially when these children and kids get out of these places, at least for me, my mind was so jumbled that I ended up doing so much harm to myself because of the trauma that I endured, because I didn't feel like anybody would ever understand what I had been through. Because anybody I did try to explain it to, they're like, oh no, you're just exaggerating. It couldn't have been that bad. Like, so what? You got sent away for 22 months. Like, I went through this or all that. Blowing me off with my experience, because I feel like that's so important for people, especially when they get fresh out of these places. And if they're not ready to deal with the trauma, that's totally fine. But also just point them in the direction where they could get some support. Point them in the direction of like a group of survivors that will help them feel not alone, and just know that you're here and supported when you are ready to talk about your experience.
Yes, when I first started, the groups and stuff, it was Breaking Code Silence way back when. But to see how young some of them were, some of them survivors coming out, because I'm thinking, holy crud,
You're not
this
even a
is
teenager.
a
You're not even a
19-year-old
teenager.
child. Yeah, a 19-year-old child, something I lived, at that time I was probably in my 50s, many years ago that I lived through, and here's a child going through the same thing. How in the world did we let children in the 70s, that stuff that happened to us, happen to children in 2020? I mean, this is nuts. I mean, I don't understand it. I ain't gonna lie, I don't understand it at all. And they just keep justifying it and just making it more and more like it's a legit thing to do. No, you don't take a child then you get in the program, then you get put in isolation, then you're in this room for days, weeks, months, or whatever. And that is not normal. You do not lock a child in isolation and let them deal with the things in their head like that. It can cause major problems, mental health problems.
See, the biggest thing for me that gets me every time is like, we bitch about doing this to prisoners in prison that have raped people, that have murdered people, like repeat offenders. We bitch about doing this and all of this isolation, like torture, whatever they want to call it. Like, what about the children that this is happening to? Right. Like, screw the prisoners. They've done their time. They've done their crime. Like, but what about the innocent children that are being subjected to this against their will for doing nothing wrong besides being a teenager most of the time, a regular teenager? I mean, yeah, there are those kids that committed crimes, sure, and got sent there through the court, sure, but that's not the majority of these kids. The majority of these kids were just being normal teenagers, including myself, and got sent to a place like this. So.
Right. I remember many girls being there and they get sent there for the devil's music. That was called the devil's music, So you're getting put in a program in a lockdown facility because you listen to rock and roll?
Yeah.
I mean,
torture.
Come on.
Yeah.
That's normal stuff that children do. Or their first little boyfriend at 12, 13, 14, your little 7th grade, loves or whatever. Every child has them. It don't mean we're off doing the dunty dunt with them. It's just kid stuff. And a lot of kids get punished for that. The ACLU ruled us as a concentration camp. A concentration camp, It was ruled prisoners of war against the Geneva Convention. There's some major things. People don't realize what happens in these places. We know what waterboarding is, electric shock therapy, and there's a lot of bad things that happen to children where they can't pull themselves back up. Why? Because they were a normal teenager, didn't do good in school. A lot of children had the AD. I'm good with that, the ADD or whatever it is. They couldn't concentrate on schoolwork, so they were fidgety. I'm fidgety.
That was me. That was me. Yep.
I'm still fidgety. And so you put them in these places and not come back and check on for years. I mean, it's not right. And the United States of America is wrong for doing it and allowing it.
Yeah. Yep. No, completely. Were they doing shock treatment? I remember hearing something about them doing shock treatment was that happening in the Rebekah home or any of the homes that you know about?
The conversion therapy. Yeah, that was more. Yeah, if you were the gay or LGBTQ whatever. I ain't good with all that stuff, the initials. But yeah, they did conversion therapy. They believed not with us mainly, more with the boys.
Yeah.
If you haven't watched James Swift, he's on Netflix. Cult of Torture. It's on Haunted. Series 2, episode 3, Cult of Torture. He was sent through New Bethany Boys Home, and it's only 30 minutes, but it's very eye-opening to what was going on there.
I'm trying to get him on a podcast. He's not quite ready to come back on and have you on the show because I know you went through a lot, and I want your voice to be heard for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of that, because, you know, like to their religion, you know, that's the devil incarnate. If you're gay, you know, that's the worst thing ever. Like, it's just like, just let them be. Like, they might not even know for sure that they're like, even if they are gay, so fucking what? But at that age, you might not even know for sure that you're gay. Maybe you're just having inklings and feelings, and like, maybe I am attracted to boys. You don't, like, I don't even feel like you really know until you're an adult. Like, you might know, but like, do you know until you're an adult and your brain's fully developed? Like, sure, that's fine. And whatever it is, that's fine. That's totally fine. Whatever you choose to be, however you choose to be. But to how they crucified us by torturing us and like all these other things, just because of the way our brains worked and who we were attracted to or who we thought we were attracted to, is just insane. It's just, so you
And
think
you're never going to
torturing?
know anyway until your heart chooses that person. Your
Yeah,
heart's going to let you know eventually who you're attracted to and who you're going to love. You
yeah,
ain't got no choice over who your heart picks, let me tell you.
yeah,
You know? And so you're going to punish a child for that?
yeah,
And
torture
they
them
teach
for it.
hate, you know? So you're teaching hate, us not to want to be with the, we can't associate with these people or whatever because they're so bad. How you don't even know that person. How are you going to hate somebody you don't know? You know, you don't even know that person really, but you're going to teach us to hate them just because who they choose to sleep with. I don't care who you sleep with. You know, I
Yeah.
could care less.
And also, you know, a lot of gay people don't even end up sleeping together. They just like each other's company. So like, what about those gays? Are they bad too? You know what I
Right.
mean?
You know, like
You
I
know what I
tell
mean?
my grandson, you know, I tell him the same thing. You don't even know yet. You know, you're still in high school. You got all these emotions that are just flowing everywhere. But one day you'll find out because your heart's going to lead you to that person. Then you
And
will
that's
know.
totally fine. That's totally fine. Whatever
Yeah.
you choose, you know?
Yeah. And you think I'm going to stop loving my grandson because if he chooses to love a man, got to be kidding me.
If
You
anything, I'm
know,
going to love them more because, you know,
right?
I'm going to embrace that part of them because, you know, I love my child and I care about them and I want them to be happy regardless of what that looks like. It
And
doesn't matter
so,
how I feel about it. It's not about me. It's about them.
right. And all these parents want to throw away their children, just throw it away, you know, just turn their back on their children over something like, how can you turn your back on your child? Something you created, something that you made, you know, no, to me, that's wrong, you
Yeah,
know?
there's so many people that I've talked to and known throughout my life that ended up using drugs or doing like crime or whatever because their parent pretty much like disowned them because they ended up being gay or whatever it was. There's so many people that I know like that. And so
Yeah.
they ended up covering it up in one way or another, and then before you know it, they're a full-fledged addict or, you know, prostituting themselves or whatever it ends up being. If their parents had just listened to them and supported what and embraced whatever came of that child, you know, just they probably wouldn't have gone down that road.
Right.
But you're
And
still going
like
to
I
sit there and
said,
blame them for it. You know what I mean?
you know, I was a drug addict for 30 years. I'm still consider myself a drug addict. I got to be careful who I'm around and what I do. But, you know, if I always feel I didn't pick that life. I wanted a white picket fence. I wanted tulips. You know, I wanted flowers and you know, I wanted a good life. And I wanted to be that good Christian wife, you know, but my life didn't go that way. So then when I covered it up, trying to, and what got me one time, this guy drew a picture of an iceberg and he put a line on the tip. He says, doing drugs is the tip of the iceberg. So you got to go down deep to realize why you're doing them drugs. And that
Yeah.
hit me so hard. You know, that's when I started really unpacking a lot of my trauma, this and that, you know, to, you know, get myself out of that part of it to even be able to heal from the other part of it. You know, the abandonment of my mother, you know, because my mom didn't have to put me in the system. She chose to put me in the system. You know, it was my stepfather or me. She chose me. You know, she chose to stay with him. I went in the system. You know, so that abandonment. You know, and when you feel abandonment as a child, and nobody's ever there, it don't go away for many years.
No, I can attest to that too. Abandonment is one of those really, really detrimental things that can happen in childhood. There's so many things that can happen in childhood, and that's why, you know, in almost every single situation, the trauma started in childhood. Like if you
Yeah.
ask, you know, if you were to do like a survey on a college campus or anywhere and just randomly ask people like, you know, do you have trauma? If you do, you don't have to say what it is, but did it start in childhood? 95% of the people are going to end up saying, yes, it started somewhere in my childhood. And then there's going to be that like 5-10% of people that it did happen later in life. But for the majority of people, it's what I try and tell people is like, if you really want to know what's going on with you now, dig into what was going on in your childhood and just really start digging down there, and you'll find out where it really went wrong for the most part.
And being rich and famous and all that has nothing to do with it. All the kids that are rich and have money, you know, they live such a better life than us poor, maybe in a way. But no, look at the Menendez brothers. Look what they went through right now. You know, and now their story is being believed. What 20, 30 years later, you know, their whole childhood taken, their whole freedom taken. And now people's like, oh, I'm sorry, I should have believed you, you know. But they stepped up and said, this is why. They reached for help. How many times as children left behind? Chris Bennett, he's another one. 18 years old, got 1,800 years in prison because he shot his predator, because his predator was on top of his little sister at 6 years old. Walked in, caught him. He was triggered. I don't think Chris went there that night to kill his stepfather. You know, he walked in, he seen it in the act, and he don't even remember, actually, you know. Now he's been locked up 23 years and still locked up because he shot a predator on top of a 6-year-old little girl, you know. But
he should be praised. He should be praised for that.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, you'd think, I mean, like, that might be fucked up to say to some people, but in my eyes, I'm kind of all for it. If you're a predator, you kind of need to get got. Especially if you're a repeat offender. That's my thing. Especially if you're a repeat offender, if you're doing it twice or more, it shows that you have a complete disregard for getting better and like learning your lesson. If you do it one time and you actually go through the hoops, and you know, some people would disagree with this, but I agree that if you do it one time, you should at least get a trial. Second time, I don't think you should even get a trial. I think you should be put straight into prison or get the death sentence, personally. But that, you know, that might get this video demonetized or whatever the fuck it is. But
but I kind of agree with you there too. You know, and CPS was visit that home 20 times. They were at that home 20 times. I've been at home 20 times and left them kids behind. So what do you think was going to happen? He knew he was getting left behind again. So, you know, and he did what he felt he had to do in a way, I guess.
Yeah.
But, you know, a lot of kids, you know, they live with these consequences of that, and they're in prison, you know, and they were not the criminal. You know, I feel I wasn't the criminal. I feel I got punished, you know, a 6-year sentence for what? Because I reached for help, you know, and then I feel that was the worst mistake of my life. Why did I reach for help? At least there only had one abuser. You know, I got put in the system. I had many abusers. Oops, sorry, I hit the cord. Use my hands. You know, I had many abusers in the system. You know,
and I think, in a way, maybe that's part of them trying to use mind control again. Because if they demonize you for speaking out and trying to ask for help one time, it's likely you won't try and do it again.
Yes.
Right. So
how many kids stay silent? Then they go home and they keep that family secret. You know, in my day, it was called the family secret, you know, and they keep that family secret, and they just, you know, and it just repeats and repeats. Then, you know, there comes becoming the human monster. That's how I call it, becoming the human monster. Some of these people, they turn into that monster because that's all they know.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think people are born and say, oh, I'm going to be a predator. I don't. No. What happened, and it, you know, and it's put in their head. It's normality to them because it happened to them all their life.
And then if it's in their DNA, if it's in their genetics somewhere along the lines, then it might be passed down through genetics as well. Those like urges or whatnot. There's some people that have that, but for the most part, it happens in the childhood. Something happens. Their beliefs, when their belief system is being formed, it gets corrupted, and they end up choosing a certain path in life. You know, whatever that trauma might have been. You know, but for a lot of people, it's passed down through genetics. It's called transgenerational epigenetics. I've been looking into it a little bit, but how traits can be passed down through DNA through generations. It's pretty interesting. But Is there anything else you want people to know? Like as an update, hold on a sec. Your activism. What have you been doing so far with your activism?
Well, I can't be silent, that's for sure. So we got a religious trauma we do every Saturday night on TikTok. I had a big following, which I'm starting over, but it's on Scars Dave's page, and we all get on there. A lot of TTI people have showed up, and we tell our stories and stuff like that. I just keep doing my articles. I do my podcast when I can. That's why I wanted to kind of do an update with you, because I think I was like number 23 or 24 when you first started at the very beginning. I was still kind of nervous and stuff. And, I just keep fighting. I'm helping with the Stop Institutional Abuse Act, that, Paris is working on. Everybody's got different opinions on that. But if it's going to help one child, we got to stand behind it.
Yeah,
that's
and
how I look at it.
If it's gonna push the envelope forward, like even a little bit, like we need to keep on pushing the envelope forward. At least my thing is on it is at least they're trying to do something. I just hope it doesn't end up being a detriment to the cause. I don't think it will be, but I just hope that the money doesn't get to people's heads or like whatever it is. I just hope that people don't get corrupted, however that could be,
And that's another thing. A lot of people don't understand. This is something I cannot support and I will never support, is the money situation, because every time money starts coming involved in this, that's when the problem is going to start. I'm not saying like your little podcast, people that help you and donate to you. I'm not talking about that. That's, helping, but these big things that are happening and people is giving big money to, and it's not used right. And I mean, that it divides people. Money is the root of all evil, no matter how you look at it. And I've watched it happen for 40 some years over and over with these, money needs to be done differently, in a way, I guess, in my head. I will never sign a DNA not non-disclosure. I will never sell my story. I will never have nobody give me $1 for anything I say. I say it on a public page. And if I say it, use it, spread it. I don't care because it's the truth. Use what I say, get it out there. Not say, oh, that's my story. You use my story. Now I'm going to sue you for using my story. I'm going to sue you for a hashtag. I'm going to sue you for this. No, we're supposed to be together. And if it helps save a child, then let's do that. That starts the in-house fighting again.
Yeah, completely. I mean, if you are going to do a nonprofit, there needs to be checks and balances. Okay. If you're going to be taking in money, you need to be accounting for what you're spending that money on. And you need to be like actually completely upfront. And like, if you're going to be spending it on like office supplies and stuff like that, do you really need the office supplies, or you just feel like you need the office supplies? Or like, if it's like just certain shit, like there just needs to be checks and balances, and there needs to be a trusted person doing that. But the thing with money is, after a certain point, when enough money gets involved, people become corrupted, and people can be bought, and people can just be silenced or whatever it is. So that's the problem with money. Even if there is checks and balances, people can still be corrupted. So
yes, so that's a touchy situation there. That's why I don't really support too many of them. Actually, I got out of all groups a few years back. I mean, to me, Survivorland is toxic. It gave me more headaches and more anxiety than anything in the world. I'm just now starting to speak back up in the little groups a little bit. And a lot of them, I'm backing out. I got in and then I back right back out because I see the comments and stuff. I'm like, no, this ain't what I want. Because I want something that we're together. And I don't care if I'm in the religious side, they're the state side, they're a foster, they're adopted. I don't care about none of that. I care that we're going to fight together to get these kids safe somehow or another. At least their story heard to the people that it matters. If we don't keep saying our story, maybe one day the right person will hear it.
Yeah. No, people have tried to put me in a box so many times because of the platform that I've created for myself and for the survivors. Everybody wants me to pick a side. They want me to pick a side. And it's just like, first of all, I can't do that because my podcast only works because I'm neutral and I'm remaining neutral, and I don't take a side, because the second I take a side, I need to stay on that side, or else I'm the bad guy or whatever it is. And I get demonized. And then my podcast ends up going in the tank because of something that had nothing to do with saving these children, nothing to do with speaking out against this. It was infighting that caused this. So for one, that's one reason I can't do it. And for two, it's not about us. It's not about right or wrong. It's about fighting for these children. It's not about who's right or wrong in the survivor community. It's not about that. It's not about your ego. It's not about their ego. It's about these children. And so I just stuck to that. And it's like, people have yelled at me, people have screamed at me, people have gotten so mad, but it's just like, you can get mad, keep on getting mad. It's like, I'm going to stick to my story and I'm going to stay neutral. Like, I'm not going to pick a side. It's not about that. It's not.
It's not. It's nothing to do with that. And I think that a lot of people lose that. They lose their sight on their goals. I mean, they start off with the goal, don't get me wrong, and their goals up there like all of ours, but then they lose the sight, you know. Then the bigger you get, you know, the more platform you get, and sometimes it just leads you down the wrong way, you know. Yeah. Or somebody says, well, I don't understand what you're doing. And I'm not for you to understand. You know,
yeah.
I do what I got to do. You know, my goal is to help children. You know, you might not agree with the way I'm helping children, but I know I've helped many. I've got some girls rescued. Was it been 2 years ago? Maybe 3 years ago. I got 8 girls rescued. Nice. You know, and they contacted another survivor on TikTok, which led them to me. Believe it or not, so people that say that the FBI ain't on TikTok, let me tell you, you're wrong. Because they are. They are. Because we were contacted. But in the midst of this, we got 8 girls out and got them rescued. You know.
There you go.
The only thing I asked from them was they have a trauma team on the spot. I said, when you bring them out, they've got to have a trauma team.
Yeah, they have to.
know, you got
they have to, or else they're gonna go down a self-destructive path. They're good. Right. It happen. I've seen it happen so many times. It happened to me.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have an outlet when I got out.
Right. So, you know, and I think, you know, that's what we got to do. There's so many of these open places, even like roll-up homes. People, you know, I know a few of them right now that are horrific abuse. And, you know, it seems like everybody wants to help the girls, but they don't want to help the boys, you know, because these are boy homes. But yet I know where they're at and where they're located, but yet nobody wants to help me even bring it out there. And one of them is Solid Rock, Union, Mississippi. Now it used to be Happiness Hill. It's been open since the farm. It's open, still open today. Anchor Home moved in 1985 from the farm. Still open today. Van Zura, Missouri. Now the last police report I found was 2004 for SA. You know, but still open today. Then we got another abuser from Blue Creek Academy, which has been multiple lawsuits. He shut down. He's in Montana. Abundantly Faith. Still open today. You know, and then they let him adopt 2 boys. With SA on his own children, convictions, you know. So how is this all happening? And nobody wants to reach out and say, "Hey, this ain't right. Let's get these boys, or you know, to safety, or get these children to safety." You know, they don't want to do that. They're too busy worrying about, oh, we spent, you know, let's go on a lawsuit for a hashtag. You know,
yeah.
What about the children in these homes? That hashtag is not going to save them children. You know,
yeah.
And that's just how I feel. And I'm sorry, I'm not picking on nobody, and I'm not picking sides or nothing. I'm just using that for an example. You know.
No, I completely agree. And I see, like, with everything going on in the world, and like, you know, with the election, I don't even want to get into that really at all. But just like, you know, on both sides, you know, like, we're fighting for all these things, and we're protesting for all this stuff. Where is the like million man march for the children sold in these trafficking rings? Where is the million man march for you know, just ending child abuse in our country? Where is all that passion? Like, you have all this passion for all this other stuff, which, yeah, I'm sure it is important. A lot of this stuff is important, but I think the most important thing is child abuse in our country, because it's the biggest, dirtiest secret of our country and even other countries is, you know, child abuse and what happens behind the closed doors in these places. But I don't see people protesting for that, you know. Right. I'm sure you've protested. I know that some people have protested, but you know what I mean? Like a bigger, like a million man march for this. Just no, we're not going to stand for it. We're going to come, like, because we outnumber them. We outnumber these politicians. That's what people don't understand. Like, if we all came together and was on one united front to stop child abuse, we could do it. We could do it,
Right.
but we're just not
1997,
united.
they made the Adoption Safety Act. Okay. And I was, oh, it's so good. It's helped the adopting kids. No, what it did was put the price of children's head higher. So now if you get a child adopted as a newborn through the foster care, you get a $10,000 or $20,000 bonus. They forget about that. You know, the things they got in there with that, you know, they make it sound good, but it's really not good at all, you know, and it goes both sides, you know, which my side was one side, and my family used to say, you're always against them. Well, I know who hurt me. I can't, you know, support who hurt me, you know, but now it's both sides, and it's so entangled that nobody cares. And I used to say that too. Where are you, America? Where are you? You know, you want to say save the children and put this out there? Them are weak words to me. I don't want to hear it. And if anything triggers me, it's save the children. You know, don't come at me at save the children, because you're not saving the children, because you don't care. No one's ever cared, and no one ever will care except us. You know, or these politicians that be jumping up fighting with us. We got to beg and plead with these politicians to even hear us, more or less be on our side and fight for us.
Yeah, and that's why if you're gonna be passing a bill or whatever, like, you need to be doing like marches. Like, marches are important. You need to be out there and seen by even if it's a smaller group of people. That can build over time. You know, you have to start somewhere. So like, as if you're seen out there with signs or whatever it is, however you're protesting, when you're seen with a sign or protesting, you know, you're actually seen and people see you. But we need to have more of that. We need to have more of these marches. We need to have more of these protests. We need to have more of these demonstrations until these politicians and people in power and just the right people see this, and we can stop it, you know? But
and you know, I hate to say this, but you know, it's a proven fact. You can look up yourself. The only thing you got to do is look up politicians with convictions. Now, convictions is guilty in the court of law. Politicians with convictions against child crime, sex, and you'll be amazed.
Our government is full of pedophiles and full of fucking child abusers. I'm just gonna say it flat out. It is.
Yeah.
I watched a video the other day where this guy literally went down every single person that he could find that was implicit in child abuse and like pedophilia and stuff, and the list was fucking super long. Like, he just,
I got 27 pages of them. 27 pages, you know, through the years that I've collected. You know, and these are convictions. Now, these ain't the ones that fought their way out, not found not guilty, or just disappeared on the things. These are the convictions in the court of law. So, you know, and if you got convicted of it, there's 90 lawmakers alone. People wonder why we can't pass laws. 90 lawmakers alone. And then you sit there and think, you know, they should lose their seat. Right then, you should not be able to be a politician. If you get convicted in a court of law for hurting a child, you should not be anywhere near, especially making laws. Because see, the laws ain't to protect the children, it's to protect them. That's why they're weak laws.
Yep.
And it took me a long time to figure that one out. I ain't gonna lie, it took me a very long time to really comprehend, because I kept saying, why won't nobody help us? You know, we're going here, we're fighting for legislation, we're fighting to be heard, but yet nobody will help us, won't even listen to us. It took me a long time to figure that out. So
yeah. Yeah, I think this episode hopefully will wake up a lot of people, or at least a few people. I hope a lot of people, you know, but people I think there's just like a bias in a lot of people's heads where that would never happen here in the United States. That wouldn't happen in our country. Our politicians wouldn't be complicit in that. But I know it's a hard pill to swallow, but there's, if you look, just do your own research. I'm just going to say, just do your own research into this stuff, and your mind will be blown. And it's just, when you're looking at a piece of paper with a conviction on it, no, that wasn't fabricated. That's really a conviction, and they really did that. Right.
Even going back as far as Francis Sheldon in 1970, he was a high official, you know, politician, you know, up there involved in that, you know, very wealthy, you know, and it stayed that way still today. I mean, it just goes down to nowadays politician.
Yeah,
I'm trying to say no name. This is what I'm trying to do here, because I'm good. I'll get us all in trouble because I'll put the names right out there. Because see, I don't care because I know who hurt me and I know who's hurting children, and so, but I know I've been threatened to be sued a few times. Like I told them, please sue me, put me in front of a judge. I would love to get in front of a judge, do that. But
and just for clarification, neither Barb or I are suicidal, and we don't have any ideation towards that. So if anything ever happens, like, just know that we love our lives and we're fighting for the truth. So just know that,
Yes, it was never suicide on my part. Believe that one.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
But
Okay.
yes. So, but I really appreciate you letting me talk about this kind of stuff. Because I think a lot of people's got the mix up the understanding of what child trafficking is. I made a video to law enforcement many years ago, and it's still there. And I mentioned names, and when I was done, he says, you was child trafficked before it was even known as child trafficking. I'm like, what? It didn't even dawn on me at that time what I was even really saying. I just wanted people to, if something happens, know that this person was involved with this person, and here's the proof and the names and places and things, And if you go look at this certain spot, you might find something, evidence, but, we're still having problems with that. We have had a couple remains digs, and we're waiting on results and to see what happens. So hopefully one day we'll connect all this stuff and people will really wake up and see that child trafficking has been going on for a very long time. Actually, it started in 1869 with Father Bernardo Holmes. If anybody was interested, he trafficked 130,000 children.
Is that where it started?
Father Bernardo's, yes. He was in Britain. Yeah, he was in Britain, I think Britain or something like that. But he took the children on ships and shipped them to Canada. All these children went to Canada for child labor and stuff. And they were called servant kids or something. I don't remember what they called it. There's a lost children or something. There's a documentary on it. That's how I found out. So then I started researching it. 3 evangelicals involved. Made this boys' home, Father Bernardo's. They came in the front door, went out the back door. And people got to realize child labor was a big part of child trafficking back then, because it might have started off with child labor, but it led to other things. And, I didn't even interview some of these women and men that were in the 80s and 90s back then. And I've seen them with still tears. They were telling their stories where they never found their family again, never seen them. And they still had tears running down their face telling their story. But yes, it's called Father Bernardo. So, yeah.
Okay, I'll look into that. I've been doing a deep dive into all of this stuff. A lot of this stuff will make it hard to sleep at night a lot of the time. I'm not gonna lie. Some of this stuff is just I believe it, but it's just unbelievable, if that makes sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
The Franklin scandal, people didn't want to believe that back in the day.
Yep.
And
that's
look
a
at
whole
it.
thing too.
Yeah.
And that's very well documented too.
Yes. And Alicia Owens, if people didn't know, she's starting to speak out now after all these years. But she was held in solitary confinement for 2.5 years. Can you imagine being held in isolation? We called ours a lockup room, but she was for 2.5 years. Lucky the woman's got a mind.
Yeah.
I mean,
extremely lucky.
Yeah.
That would shatter most people's minds.
But I'm restarting my TikTok, and I got something that's called Going Down the Rabbit Hole. Let me lead you the way. And I got different names of things to look up, like Second Mile Home. I don't know, it's Jerry Sadusky. The DA, Roy Garcia, he what's it been, 14, 15 years? They still haven't found him. Still today, he just disappeared and his hard drives.
Yeah, disappeared. Yeah. And then hard drives disappear. Yeah, I'm sure. Right. Yep.
I mean, people don't realize there's many deaths that go along with this of people that are speaking out, including
they just disappear. They just end up gone one day. And it's just I don't buy that for a fucking second. They're somewhere,
But yeah, if you go in there, I got 4 or 5 pages just in names, like I say, do your own research.
Yeah.
I ain't gonna sit there and tell you what they did. look up that name, do your own research, and you'll be shocked of some of the things that you'll find with just the names I posted. You know,
Yeah.
and some were children, some were adults, some were law enforcement, some were DAs, but every one of them is either gone, missing, disappeared, never come back, or involved in it somehow or another. Decades of it. I've been
We'll
doing
link
this
your
research. I've been doing research on this for decades. That's how I know so much
yeah.
about Franklin. That's my time. You know, the 70s, I was a kid. That's when I was a kid. So, you know, I remember the names and the articles.
Yeah, you are a treasure trove of information because you've been alive so long. You know what I mean? You were
Right?
actually alive back then.
Yeah. Yeah. Them ones are probably the oldest T.T.I survivor really left. You know, if you think about it, you
Yeah,
know.
you definitely are up there for sure.
Yeah.
Like, I
You
think you're
know.
one of the oldest TTI survivors I've talked to, I think.
Yeah. I think I'm pretty much the oldest one that really speaks out. There's a couple that's with me, but you know, a lot of us don't speak out. You know, we're friends and stuff, but they don't want to. I mean, a lot of people don't speak out because of their family or their career or you know different things. They got reasons not to, but they know the truth.
Yeah, I'm
So
sure a lot of people feel like people won't believe them too. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Yeah.
you know, to the point. I don't care if you believe me or not anymore. I could care less. You
And the
know, you don't
truth,
have to believe me. I'm not asking you to believe me. You know, I'm just asking you to open your mind a little bit and do a little bit of research. Find out
yeah,
for yourself.
yep, the truth will come out in the end, and you just need to do your own research. That's what I always tell people: just do your own research and trust me. Like, just make up your own mind on it. But I'm not trying to convince you that this is the way it is. But just do your own research and do some dot connecting, and you will see that a lot of this, almost all this stuff, goes back to a lot of the power and greed. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? It goes back to that.
yeah,
So
and all of it does. You know, all of it. It goes up all to the power and greed. You
yep,
know, and they make money off of children, and they forget children are the future. See, well,
yep,
children are going to grow up, and like right now, a lot of survivors are coming lawyers, counselors, therapists. You know, they're going into careers that help the other kids that are coming out. You
yep,
know, or you know, my generation, we didn't even think about stuff like that. You know, but you know, so yeah.
yep. All right. Well, please send me the link to your TikTok. I'll include that when I post this video. I'm pretty far behind in the videos. I literally have like maybe 3 months worth of videos I still have to put out, but your video will be out in the
Oh,
order that I've done them. You know, I'm good for my word.
yeah, I ain't even worried about it. Whenever you get around to it, you know, I know how long it takes. Like I said, I just got banned from TikTok, so I'm starting over. So, you know, 5 years, and I had a good platform. I had millions and millions of views, you know, about 25,000 followers. And so,
Yeah, they didn't like that, I'm sure, you know.
no, they could hit me for misinformation. I'm my own child of the court case.
All of this stuff is provable when you do the
Yeah,
research, but it's
right.
misinformation.
Yeah. Yep. So, all
It's
right. So I'll see
unbelievable.
you later, and thank you again for letting me like have an update in my life and stuff. I appreciate
No
it.
problem. And if you ever want to come on again and do another update in like a year or two or whenever, just hit me up.
Okay. All right. No
All
problem.
right. All
All
right.
right.
Have a good day.
Bye.
Thank you guys so
Thank
much for
you.
watching the video so far. Please make sure you like the video and share, 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 share. Please, anything you do to interact with the video helps the algorithm. Even if you just leave a comment down below or just like watch, like, even if you watch like 5 minutes of it and then stop it and watch the rest later, that still shows the algorithm that you're showing interest, and it pushes my podcast out further. And we're almost at 1,000 subscribers, and once we get there, we'll actually get ad monetization, which means I can probably start doing more for the community. So just not that that's the reason I'm doing this, but just saying that the word will get out there more too, because then we'll be in the actual algorithm and all of that stuff. So once again, thank you guys for your support. I appreciate all of you. You're not alone, and just know that people are fighting for you. I know the kids that are stuck in these places can't hear this, but if you can hear it, we're fighting for you, and just hang in there. We're
Yeah.
doing
Hang
everything
on,
we can.
kids. We're coming.
Okay. Take care, guys. Bye.